Good evening, dreamer. Welcome to the new world. Forget the mud of London. Forget the dust of the Wild West. Open your eyes. You are standing in Tenochtitlan, Tenochtitlan. The year is 1487. It is breathtaking, isn't it? A sparkling city floating in the middle of a vast lake, connected to the mainland by massive, geometric causeways. It is cleaner than any city in Europe. The streets are swept daily. There is no sewage in the streets. They have public latrines and a system to collect waste for fertilizer. It smells of flowers, burning copal incense, and, wait. Sniff the air again. Underneath the scent of vanilla and marigolds, there is something metallic. Something coppery, thick and cloying. That, my dear tourist, is the smell of fresh blood. And not just a few drops. We are talking about rivers of it. You are standing at the foot of the Templo Mayor, the Great Pyramid. Look up. The stairs are painted red. But that's not paint. Do you see that massive wooden rack over there? The one stretching for meters? That is the Tzompantli. It's an abacus. But instead of beads, they use human skulls. Thousands of them. Bored through the temples and slid onto wooden poles like a grotesque shish kebab. Some are old and bleached white by the sun. Others are fresh, with skin still clinging to the bone. This isn't a war crime scene. This is the town center. This is civilization. You see, in the Aztec worldview, the sun doesn't just rise because of physics. The sun is a hungry god named Huitzilopochtli. He is constantly fighting the darkness. And he needs fuel. What is the fuel? Calmecac. That's the poetic word for precious water. Translation: human blood. If the blood stops flowing, the sun stops moving, and the universe dies. So, mass murder isn't just a hobby here, it's a cosmic responsibility. And guess what? You look like a full tank of gas. So, who are you in this glorious empire? Are you an eagle warrior? A jaguar knight? A high priest with matted hair smelling of death? Of course not. Stop dreaming. You are a Macehualtin. A commoner. A nobody. You are the battery that powers this machine. Life here is strictly regulated. In Europe, if you get rich, you can buy nice clothes. Here, fashion is law. The dress code is enforced by death. Are you wearing cotton? Take it off. Cotton is for nobles. You wear maguey fiber, cactus cloth. It's rough, itchy, and ugly. Are your sandals extending above your ankles? That's illegal. Did you dare to step into the palace wearing shoes? Punishment: death. Did you look the emperor, the Huey Tlatoani, in the eye? Punishment: death. You live in a Kalpuli, a neighborhood clan. You don't own your land, the clan does. You work it, you pay tribute, and you shut up. Your life is a cycle of breaking your back in the chinampas, the floating gardens. It's actually an engineering marvel. You dredge mud from the lake bottom to create fertile islands. It's incredibly productive agriculture, which is good because you have to feed a city of 200,000 people and a pantheon of gods who have an endless appetite. But here is the twist. You aren't a slave. You have rights. You can divorce. Your children are free. In fact, if a noble treats you badly, you can theoretically complain to the courts. But don't get too comfortable. Because being a free commoner just means you are free to work until you are conscripted for war. And in Aztec warfare, the goal isn't to kill the enemy. It's to catch them alive. Why? To bring them back to that red staircase we saw earlier. So, Your greatest fear isn't dying on the battlefield. It's not dying on the battlefield. It's being dragged back to a city, painted blue, and held down by 4 priests while a 5th one uses an obsidian glass knife to open your chest like a wallet. Welcome to the Aztec Empire. The rent is high, the laws are strict, and the gods are incredibly thirsty. So, you've finished your shift at the floating gardens. You are starving. I'd love a steak, you think. Or maybe a pork chop. Bad news, carnivore. There are no cows here. No pigs. No sheep. No horses. The biggest domesticated animal is a turkey. So, where do you get your protein? Look down. Look at the ground. Do you see that grasshopper? That's dinner. The Aztec diet is resourceful. You will be eating chapulines, toasted grasshoppers seasoned with lime and chili. Crunchy, salty, and full of legs. Or perhaps you'd prefer tequitlatl. It sounds exotic, doesn't it? It's actually blue-green algae scraped off the surface of Lake Texcoco. They dry it into a green, fishy-smelling cake that tastes like cheese made of swamp mud. It's a superfood, apparently. But it looks like something you scrape off the bottom of a boat. And if you want meat, real meat, you have a pet dog, a Xoloitzcuintli Squintly. It's that cute, hairless breed. But don't get too attached to Fido. Because on feast days, Fido is the main course. Dog meat is considered a delicacy. Imagine looking into those puppy eyes while you marinate his thigh. The forbidden stew, but there is one dish we need to talk about. The dish that makes the Spanish conquistadors vomit in their helmets. Pozole. Today, it's a delicious pork stew. But in 1487, pork didn't exist here. So, what was the meat floating in the hominy corn soup during the religious festivals? It was the thigh of a captured warrior. Yes, ritual cannibalism. This wasn't because they were starving. It was a communion. By eating the flesh of the sacrificed warrior, they believed they were consuming a part of the god. The priests would take the heart, for the sun, but the limbs, they were gifted to the elite and the captor. So, if your neighbor invites you over for a special stew after the Macuahuitl festival, maybe say you're already full. You don't want to find a kneecap in your soup bowl. Maybe you think, I'll just stay home and be a kid. Wrong. The Aztecs were centuries ahead of Europe in one thing: mandatory universal education. Every child, boy or girl, noble or peasant, must go to school. There is no escape. But this isn't Montessori, darling. This is boot camp from hell. If you are a commoner, you go to the Tzompantli, House of Youth. You don't learn math or poetry. You learn how to carry heavy logs, how to dig ditches, and how to fight. You sleep on the cold mud floor. You are given very little food to toughen you up. If you complain, you are beaten. The goal is to turn you into a soldier who doesn't fear pain. If you are a noble, you go to the Calmecac. You think it's easier? Think again. It's worse. The nobles are held to a higher standard. They sleep with less blankets. They wake up at midnight to pray in freezing water. They must bleed themselves with maguey thorns, piercing their tongues or ears, to offer blood to the gods daily. Why? Because if a commoner fails, he's just a bad farmer. If a noble fails, the gods get angry and the world ends. No pressure. The discipline, and if you misbehave, if you are lazy, or if you lie. Aztec parents and teachers don't just ground you. They use chemical warfare. A popular punishment for a rebellious child involves chili peppers. The parent takes a handful of dried, spicy chilies and throws them into a fire. Then, They grab the child and hold their face directly in the smoke. Imagine the capsaicin, the chemical that makes peppers hot, burning your eyes, your throat, your lungs. You are choking, blindingly crying, gasping for air. It's agonizing. And it's standard parenting advice in the Aztec codices. And alcohol? Don't even think about it. Pulque, fermented cactus juice, is strictly for the elderly, over 52 years old. If you are young and you get drunk in public, for a commoner, your head is shaved, public humiliation, and your house is destroyed. For a noble, execution. Usually by strangulation. Being a teenager in Tenochtitlan is a high-risk activity. You study, you bleed, you choke on chili smoke, and you stay sober. Or you die. So, it's Saturday afternoon. You want to relax. How about a ball game? Welcome to the Tlachtli court, or Ulamalistli. It looks like a narrow basketball court shaped like the letter I, with stone walls on both sides. But this isn't the NBA, darling. First, look at the ball. It's made of solid rubber. It weighs about 4 kilograms, 9 pounds. Imagine a bowling ball that bounces. Now, the rules. You cannot use your hands. You cannot use your feet. You can only use your hips, your elbows, and your knees. You have to keep this bowling ball in the air and slam it across the line. If that ball hits you in the stomach, internal bleeding. If it hits you in the face, broken jaw. Players often die on the court just from the impact of the ball. They wear leather girdles, but honestly, it's like wearing a napkin to stop a bullet. The impossible shot. Do you see that stone ring high up on the wall? It's tiny. If you manage to knock the ball through that ring using only your hip, you win instantly. It's a miracle shot. And if you win, the spectators go crazy. Why? Because gambling is an obsession here. People bet everything. Their cloaks, their jewelry, their feathers. Some addicts even bet themselves. Yes. If you lose the bet, you become a slave to the winner. You walk into the stadium a free man and leave in chains because your team missed a shot. The trophy, but what about the players? This is where historians argue, but the reality is gruesome either way. At the end of a major ritual game, someone has to pay the gods. The captain of the losing team, decapitated. Or, in some holy versions, the captain of the winning team gets the honor of being sacrificed. Imagine winning the Super Bowl, and your prize is having your heart ripped out while your fans cheer. It gives a whole new meaning to leaving it all on the field. If the ball game doesn't kill you, the flower wars, Macuahuitl, might. The name sounds lovely, doesn't it? Like a hippie festival. It is actually a state-sponsored kidnapping spree. Usually, wars are fought for land or gold. But sometimes, Tenochtitlan isn't hungry for land. The gods are hungry for blood. So, the Aztec Emperor calls the neighboring enemy city, like Tlaxcala, and says, "Hey, are you running low on captives? We are too. Let's meet next Tuesday for a battle." Both sides agree. No land will be taken. No looting. The only goal is to capture live humans for sacrifice. It's like a grocery run, but the grocery is you. Macuahuitl, you are a warrior on the field. You don't carry a steel sword. You carry the Macuahuitl. It's a wooden club embedded with razor-sharp prismatic blades of obsidian. Obsidian is sharper than modern surgical steel. It can shave a hair floating in the air. A solid hit from a Macuahuitl can decapitate a horse. But remember, you don't want to kill. Dead men can't walk up the pyramid stairs. So, you aim for the legs. You use the club to cripple, to slice through muscles and tendons. You want your enemy writhing in agony, unable to run, but very much alive. The battlefield is a scene of surgical horror. Slicing, hamstringing, and bludgeoning. If you are captured, don't expect a POW camp. You are treated well, for a while. You are fed delicious food. You are given alcohol. You are treated like a god. Because you are a god. Or rather, you are the vessel. You will be paraded through the streets, celebrated, and then, on the appointed day, you will climb those red steps. The Flower War is the only war in history where the losers are the main course at the victory dinner. We are going to give the Aztecs credit where credit is due. They were not medical savages. In fact, their knowledge of botany made them centuries ahead of the Europeans you just left. Their pharmacopoeia, their collection of medicinal herbs, was immense. They had remedies for everything: fevers, wounds, and stomach issues. They needed a lot of stomach remedies. If you have a headache, they won't drill a hole in your skull just yet. They might give you a powerful hallucinogenic extract to speak to the gods who are punishing you. The scalpel of stone, but if you have a battlefield injury, you are lucky. Aztec doctors, or Tzompantli, used blades made of obsidian. We talked about the sharpness of obsidian glass in the Flower Wars. It is sharper than modern surgical steel. While the European doctor is using a rusty iron saw to take off your leg, the Aztec doctor is using a blade so fine, it creates almost no tearing. This means cleaner cuts and less risk of infection. They were even experts at trepanning. Yes, drilling a hole in the skull to relieve pressure or treat spiritual illness. They performed these operations with obsidian tools and surprisingly high success rates, probably because they were so clean and precise. You might survive a brain surgery here, but you probably wouldn't survive an operation in 17th century London. Go figure. But here is the final, horrifying Aztec reality check on medicine. If you are sick, it's not because of germs. It's because a god is angry at you. And if the herbs and surgery don't work, you are beyond scientific help. You are spiritually bankrupt. The only way to cure the spiritual illness is to offer something better than yourself. Or maybe, just maybe, the Tzompantli recommends that you be offered to the gods to appease the divine rage. So, while the Aztec doctor's technique might save your life, his theology might take it. You either get better, or you get sacrificed. No middle ground. You need a day off. You decide to visit the famous menagerie of Moctezuma II. The Spanish conquistadors wrote about this place in awe. It was vast, well-maintained, and filled with thousands of unique animals and birds, gathered from every corner of the vast Aztec Empire. It was divided into 3 terrifying sections. The aviary. Hundreds of species of magnificent birds, kept in immense covered cages. The noise is deafening. Section 2. The House of Beasts. Jaguars, pumas, snakes, and crocodiles. They are kept in large stone cages, where they are fed the leftovers from the human sacrifices. Yes, the limbs not consumed in the Pozole stew often ended up as jaguar food. So, you are essentially standing next to a cage full of animals that ate your neighbor. Section 3. The House of Human Oddities. Now, this is where it gets truly disturbing, even by our low standards. Moctezuma collected living human beings the way he collected exotic birds. He housed hundreds of people who were considered unique or unusual. Dwarfs, albinos, hunchbacks, and people with severe physical deformities. They weren't kept as slaves, not in the traditional sense, but they were kept for spectacle, entertainment, and sometimes for consultation, as the emperor believed they had a closer connection to the divine. You are walking past cages and pens filled not with beasts, but with people who are being fed, maintained, and displayed simply because they look different. Imagine being born unique, only to spend your entire life as a public spectacle, the emperor's favorite pet. The Aztec Empire, where your medical prognosis is tied to theology, and your physical condition determines your cage. You've survived the ball game, the flower wars, and the chilly smoke. You thought the gods were your only problem. You were wrong. It's 1519, and the universe is throwing up red flags. 4 years, terrifying omens plagued the empire. A comet tearing across the sky. The Templo Mayor inexplicably catching fire. A spectral woman's voice echoing from the lake, weeping, "My children, we are lost." La Llorona legend was possibly born here. And then, the impossible arrived. They came on massive wooden boats that sailed themselves. They wore metal skin that deflected your obsidian blades. They brought beasts larger than any jaguar's horses. These tiny, hairy, white men commanded thunder with their cannons. You, the commoner, ran in terror. You believed they were gods. Or at least, the returning god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity, whose return was foretold. And your emperor, Moctezuma too? He choked. He was a scholar, a priest, a philosopher. Not a warrior. He was paralyzed by superstition. He couldn't decide if he should kill the white intruders or worship them. He chose the latter. He sent gifts. Massive, incredible gifts of pure gold. Think about that for a second. You send a starving dog a little piece of steak, hoping it will leave. The dog doesn't leave. It smells the rest of the meat and gets hungrier. That's what Moctezuma did. He didn't offer a ritual sacrifice to appease the foreigners. He offered fuel to their boundless European greed. When Cortés and his 500 men finally entered Tenochtitlan, they were welcomed as honored guests. They saw the gold, they saw the Tzompantli, and they smelled the blood. They didn't see gods. They saw a treasury, and an enemy that hadn't yet realized the fight had begun. The end of the world didn't come with steel and gunpowder. It came with snot and fever. The real conqueror wasn't Cortés, it was smallpox. This biological weapon arrived with a captured slave, and because the Aztec people had zero immunity, it spread like wildfire before the Spanish military campaign even properly began. Smallpox didn't just kill the commoners, it killed the Huey Tlatoani, emperor, and his entire chain of command. Generals, priests, leaders all died in agony, covered in pustules, blinded or disfigured. The Aztec army was left crippled and headless. Half the population was too sick to even lift a Macuahuitl. After the Spanish had to flee the city, the bloody retreat known as the Noche Triste, they regrouped. When they returned for the final siege, they didn't meet an army. They met a mass graveyard. The canals were choked with the dead and the dying. The survivors were starving and drinking brackish water. The final defense of Tenochtitlan was a desperate, feverish scramble by starving men and women. The battle wasn't won by Spanish genius, it was won by biological annihilation. The final reality check, so, congratulations. You survived a week in this hell. You avoided the obsidian scalpel and the chilly smoke. You survived the Tzompantli, only to die in a pile of your own waste, paralyzed by a pox you didn't even know existed, while your beautiful city sank into the lake, never to be rebuilt. Now, stop. Look around you. Are you wearing maguey fiber? Is there a priest checking your sobriety? Are you about to be drafted for a flower war? You are sitting in a comfortable chair, breathing clean air, with water that won't give you dysentery, and no one is demanding your heart for breakfast. You are a survivor of the greatest luxury in human history, modern life. Be grateful for your boring, safe, secular existence. If you survived the horrors of the Aztec Empire, please like and subscribe to History Bedtime Stories. Next time, perhaps we'll trade the heat of Mexico for the bitter cold of the Viking longship. Until then, good night and sweet nightmares.